Yeah, Shalom, Israel. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatham to the brothers watching. Yahweh Shemalatham Bashem, Yahweh Shai to the sisters watching. This is the ISUPK, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And we teach the only truth in this world that matters, that so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indian are the chosen people of God, the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, and our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Now you're tuned in to Officer Howard Moore, ISUPK, Kentucky. And tonight is our Monday night history class. Now the topic of tonight's class, Black History Part 4. And we finna get into what is an African American. All right. Now, if you've been paying attention all month, I've been doing a Monday history class all month long, dealing with Black history. Now, the first month, the first Monday of the month, I did a class on the Black church, Black communism, and the second Monday of the month, I did a class on all Black towns in Indian Territory. Last week, I dropped a class on Black elites, dealing with Black fraternities, the Boule, and Prince Hall Freemasons. And tonight, the last Monday of the month, last Monday of Black History, we're going to talk about what is an African American. But before we go ahead and get off into it, man, before we get into it, I want to invite every so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indian to check out our content. All right, ISUPK, Kentucky, under Commanding General Yohana. Of course, Monday night, we got the history class. Tuesday night, Brotherhood class taught by Officer of 1,000, I'm a Wonga boy. And Wednesday night, the podcast, the Kentucky podcast, the baddest podcast around, Cry Out and Spare Not podcast, hosted by Officers of 1,000, I'm a Wonga boy, and Asiapian. And come here to breakdowns, these biblical breakdowns of all the viral videos going across the internet. All right, so that's every Wednesday, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., Cry Out, Spare Not podcast. And again, come here, the biblical solution, the biblical breakdown to all of the viral videos going across the internet. But again, tonight, last Monday of the month, last Monday of so-called Black History Month, and the last class of the month, we finna get into what is an African American. All right, what is an African American? Now, first, let's get into what is an African. All right, I'm not talking about where the word comes from. I'm talking about what the word actually means. All right, what is an African? All right, there's no doubt that Africa is the feminine adjective derived from a word, Afur. All right, but whence come Afur? I venture to offer the following. The earliest inhabitants of Tunis were cave dwellers. Now, when you're dealing with Tunis, you're talking about the northern part of the continent. All right, Herodotus in his second book describes the customs and country of these troglodytes. Now, the principal part of this cave dwelt chain is still called Jibril Ephraim, from the tribe who inhabited. According to the Berber historian, this tribe dwelt there from time immemorial, and he mentions that they derived their name from the Berber word Efri, which signifies a cave. All right, now we just read that Afur, which is where the word Africa comes from this word Efri, which means a cave. So what are we saying? What are we saying? The name Africa means cave dweller. All right, the name Africa means cave dweller or troglodyte. Right? And I bet you never learned this in history class. All right, the name Africa means cave dweller or troglodyte. All right, let's walk. So now we got Africa out of the way. Let's get into some of the people some of the people that made Pan-Africanism popular. Some of the people that contributed to this whole African American identity. All right, we got Edward Wilmot Blythe, all right, known as the father of Pan-Africanism. He was born in St. Thomas. Now you're going to see that. You're going to see that quite a bit. The key people responsible for Pan-Africanism, the key people responsible for this African American identity, aren't even from the United States. All right, Edward Wilmot Blythe, and father of Pan-Africanism, born in St. Thomas. Now, he was an ordained Presbyterian minister that worked with the ACS. Now, the ACS is the American Colonization Society. And as we can see, he's a minister. All of this is missionary work. All right, Pan-Africanism and the African-American identity all comes out of missionary work. And he immigrated to Liberia in 1850, paid for by the American Colonization Society. Now, who were they? Now, the American Colonization Society were a group of white philanthropists that wanted to deport black people and send black people to Liberia. All right. After all of our free labor, after all of our blood, sweat, and tears that made this country the wealthiest country in the world, after centuries of living off of our free labor, they wanted to just kick us out of here. All right. American Colonization Society was established to address the prevailing view that free people of color could not integrate into U.S. society. Their population had grown steadily following the war, and white Americans believed that blacks were inherently inferior and therefore should be relocated. All right. This was the sentiment of Americans, white Americans, right before the Civil War. All right. They wanted to take all of our free labor and the wealth that established this country and just deport us all. All right. Send us all to Liberia. All right. Now, this was even pushed in the church by 3 black Quakers. All right. James Ford and Richard Allen and Absalom Jones. And they discussed moving to Africa in front of a 3,000 member church. Remember, all of this is missionary work. All of this comes out of missionary work. Now, once Blyden gets to Africa, he turns around and flips Muslim on y'all. All right, he turns around and flips and turns Muslim on y'all once he gets to Liberia, because he believes that Islam can somehow make masters out of black people. All right, he believes that Islam can somehow make masters out of black people. But I'm finna show you that Islam is just as bad as the Christian church. Now, this is Hadith 163. It says, while we were sitting with the prophet in the mosque, a man came riding a camel. He made his camel kneel down in the mosque and tied his foreleg and then said, who amongst you is Muhammad? Now, in this instance, it's talking about the Muhammad that lived, they say, 1,400 years ago, that established the religion of Islam. All right. At that time, the prophet was sitting amongst us, leaning on his arm. And we replied, this white man reclining on his arm. All right. Muhammad was a white Arab. All right. Muhammad was a white Arab, meaning that Islam can do no better for blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians than the Christian church. All right. How was a white Arab prophet, a white Arab Muhammad, any better than a white Jesus? All right. How is a white Arab Muhammad any better than a white Jesus? And this is what the father of Pan-Africanism was trying to push. All right. Henry Sylvester Williams, born in Trinidad. Again, like I said, a lot of these people that were pushing Pan-Africanism, a lot of these people that were pushing this African-American identity weren't even from the United States. All right. Williams coined the term Pan-Africanism, and he moved to England 1897 and formed the African Association. All right. He worked as a lecturer for the Church of England Temperance Society. And he met and married a white woman named Agnes Powell, daughter of Freemason Captain Francis Powell. And you'll see this also in Pan-Africanism. All right, Sheikh Anta Diop was married to a white woman. Let's walk. All right, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, the white supremacist. Now, I know he's the king of Pan-Africanism. But he's a white supremacist. He's standing there with a white supremacist in the picture. All right, the white man in the picture is a man named Walter Plecker. And Walter Plecker is responsible for changing birth certificates. He's responsible for erasing the identity of the indigenous people of Virginia. Let's walk. All right, prominent black activist Marcus Garvey once said, I regard the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon Club, and white American society, as far as the Negro is concerned, a better friend of the race than all other groups of hypocritical whites put together. He viewed the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon Club, and white American society as a friend to the race. This is y'all's king of Pan-Africanism. Now, this next source is a telegram from Marcus Garvey to Ernest Sevier Cox, who was a white supremacist. He said, the fact is, the modern Negro is a lazy, good-for-nothing slumberer. This is my conviction arrived at by close and careful study and experience. And if something is not done for him, he will die as other unfit races have. This is what Marcus Garvey wrote to a white supremacist. Marcus Garvey said, the modern Negro is a lazy, good-for-nothing slumberer, and he will die as other unfit races have. And he wrote this to a white supremacist. Let's find out about this white supremacist. All right, here's Ernest Cox. All right, self-styled ethnologist Ernest Sevier Cox announced Virginia's eugenic fears regarding the race question. He wrote, the Negro problem is a part of the greater problem of heredity. When eugenics seeks to eliminate the unfit and establish the fit, it has for its purpose not the betterment of physical types merely, but the establishment of those types of greatest value of progressive civilization. This is all eugenics taught. And eugenics is the forerunner for Planned Parenthood. Eugenics is the forerunner for Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics that are put in our neighborhoods at an 80% rate. All right. African Americans represent an unfit type and were a matter of concern for the eugenists. According to Cox, those who seek to maintain the white race in its purity. All right. This is who Marcus Garvey is corresponding with. This is who Marcus Garvey is telling the modern Negro is a lazy, good-for-nothing slumberer. But let's take it a step further. All right, the relationship between Marcus Garvey and Ernest Cox developed into a genuine friendship. All right, the relationship between Marcus Garvey and Ernest Cox developed into a genuine friendship. In one of his books, Garvey presented a full-page ad promoting the book, White America, without charge. All right, Marcus Garvey was a close friend with the white supremacists. Now, I need anybody who is still a Pan-African, and as far as I'm concerned, Pan-Africanism died a long time ago, but I need anybody that's a Pan-African to explain how Marcus Garvey was a close personal friend with the white supremacists. How Marcus Garvey told a white supremacist that black people are lazy, good-for-nothing slumberers. This is how Marcus Garvey speaks about black Americans to a white supremacist. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, Pan-Africanism died a long time ago. But let's walk. All right, was Marcus Garvey a black European? Well, we have his family, right? We have his family, all right, coming from Europe to Jamaica in 1747. All right, Marcus Garvey's ancestors were Jacobites from Europe. All right, Jacobites were people that fought on the side of the Stuarts in a Jacobite rebellion when it was a conflict over the throne between the Stuarts and the Hanovers. Now, of course, the Hanovers won the battle, and Jacobites were expelled out of the UK. Jacobites, again, being the people that sided with the Stuart family. All right, these people were exiled into the Americas. All right, so Marcus Garvey's family were black people from the UK, but he's trying to push some kind of African identity on black people in the United States. All right, Melville Herskovits, president of the African Studies Association. This is your white Jewish father of African studies. All right, the father of African studies was a white Jew named Melville Herskovits. Now, y'all got to make this make sense. The father of African studies is a white Jewish man named Melville Herskovits. And he wrote a book called Myth of the Negro Past. And he tried to prove that black Americans have an African culture. All right, this whole book tried to prove that black Americans have an African culture. Well, let's see about some of this African culture. All right, this is one of the customs most zealously pursued by them, the Egyptians, to raise every child that is born and to circumcise the males and the females. This is where female genital mutilation comes from. All right, female genital mutilation comes from the ancient Egyptians. And we're going to talk about ancient Egypt here when we close out the class. All right, female genital mutilation, where they cut the clitoris off of young girls, that comes from the ancient Egyptians. All right, here it is in the coffin text. All right, but if a man wants to know how to live, he should recite a magical spell every day after his flesh has been rubbed with the uncircumcised, it says untranslated word, of an uncircumcised girl and the flakes of skin of an uncircumcised bald man. All right, you're supposed to rub the circumcised part of a young girl if you want to know how to live. This is how funky and disgusting that these Africans were. All right, and give it up for the Passover, the Lord's 56th annual Passover, where the Lord delivered the children of Israel away from these filthy, disgusting Africans. Well, let's take it a step further. All right, as of 2023, it's estimated that 200 million girls in 31 countries, including 27 African countries, have been subjected to one or more types of female genital mutilation. And again, this is where they cut the clitoris off of young girls. All right, in Ethiopia, 74% of girls are so-called circumcised. Now, again, the white Jewish father of African studies says that black Americans retain an African culture. Well, we don't do this. We don't circumcise our girls. What kind of culture, what kind of African culture do black Americans have? All right, I dare anybody, I dare any Pan-African to come on here. I dare any Pan-African to come on here and say, what kind of African culture do black Americans have? All right, we don't do this. All right, blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians, we don't do this. But let's walk. Let's walk. All right, all of this was funded by white Jewish money. You want to know why a white Jewish man was the father of African studies? Because all of it was funded by white Jewish money. All right, here's a man named Julius Rosenwald, a small hat. All right, and he funded the YMCA branch, West 135th Street. All right, on 181 West 135th Street, built in 1919 for $375,000. All right, and participants of the Harlem History Club that was at this YMCA include John Henry Clark. All right, This building, this Harlem History Club, was funded by a white Jew named Julius Rosenwald. And again, John Henry Clark studied there. So let's get into him. John Henry Clark, another giant in Pan-Africanism. All right, was a pioneer in the creation of Pan-African and Africana studies and professional institutions in academia in the 1960s. But John Henry Clark has moved from duplicity to brazen influence of his role as guidance counselor to the Pentagon and safari scout for the CIA in the Harlems of the USA and Africa. Here's your source. John Henry Clark advises CIA and joins Beat the Russians band. All right, you can read this for yourself. All right, John Henry Clark advises CIA and joins Beat the Russians band. All right, and this man again studied at the Harlem History Club, which was funded by a white Jew named Julius Rosenwald. It's no wonder that a white Jew, Melville Herskovitz, was the father of African studies. All right, Dr. Joseph Ben Jokanan, another giant in Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africans call him Dr. Ben. All right, this is one of their greatest teachers, one of their greatest so-called teachers they call Dr. Ben. All right, there's doubt about whether Dr. Joseph Ben Jokanan was truthful about his birthplace, but there's agreement that he was raised in the Caribbean. So strike one. Dr. Ben lied about where he was from. In 1938, he is said to have earned a degree in civil engineering at the University of Puerto Rico. This is disputed as the registrar has no record of his attendance. Strike two. All right, the University of Puerto Rico has no record of his attendance. All right, Dr. Ben also stated that he began teaching Egyptology at Malcolm King College in Harlem in 1950. But this volunteer-run effort was not founded until 1968. It's about 12 years too early, according to his own story. All right, strike three. They say strike three, you out, right? They say strike three, you are out. But he's got another one coming. He also claimed to have earned a PhD in cultural anthropology and Moorish history at the University of Havana and the University of Barcelona. This is his own biography. He claimed to earn a PhD in cultural anthropology and Moorish history at the University of Havana. But Barcelona says that he never received a degree from their university. All right. Their so-called Dr. Ben is a fraud. All right. Take the doctor off his name. He said he got a PhD in Barcelona, and they say he never received a degree from their university. Take the doctor off his name. All right. Their famous Dr. Ben is a fraud. Pan-Africanism, if it's not already dead, it's going to sleep. All right. If it's not already dead, it's finna get buried tonight. Dr. Leonard Jeffries. All right. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, another giant in Pan-Africanism. All right. Administrator, professor, and Pan-Africanist. Born 1937 in New Jersey. All right. A Rockefeller Foundation and Whitney Opportunity Fellow, Jeffries in 1972 earned a Columbia University PhD in political science under the direction of Elliot Skinner, Emmanuel Wallerstein, and L. Gray Cohen. All right. Rockefeller Foundation and L. Gray Cohen. All right. Rockefeller Foundation, and he was under the direction of L. Gray Cohen. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation, all right, established the Population Council to advance family planning, birth control, population goals, population control, and the goals of the eugenics movement. This is no different. This is no different than Marcus Garvey being close friends with the white supremacists and the eugenicists. Again, the eugenics movement is the forerunner for Planned Parenthood. All right, the eugenics movement is the forerunner for Planned Parenthood abortion clinics. All right, the eugenics movement is the forerunner for Planned Parenthood abortion clinics, which they also use W.E.B. Du Bois to push this eugenics movement on Black people in the South. Now, this is who supported Leonard Jeffries. All right. Now, he was also Salakia. It's like we skipped the slide. Salakia, give me just a minute here. Give me just a minute. We was cooking here for a minute. Give me just a minute. We was cooking here for a minute. But I think we skipped a big slide here, y'all. I think we skipped a big slide here. In just a minute. Bear with me. All right, Marcus Garvey. Melville Herskovitz. Julius Rosenwald. John Henry Clark. Dr. Ben. All right, Leonard Jeffries. All right, funded by Rockefeller, who was a eugenicist, studied under L. Gray Cohen. All right, here we go. So he was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, and he studied under L. Gray Cohen, which was another Jew, who was another president of the African Studies Association after Melville Herskovitz. But this particular Jew that Leonard Jeffries studied under was in the CIA. All right, here's L. Gray Cohen, right here, and right here. All right, it says position in CIA-related organization. Here's L. Gray Cohen, right here, and down here with the African Institute. All right, this is the man that Dr. Leonard Jeffries studied under. All right, so not only was Leonard Jeffries funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, he studied under L. Gray Cohen of the African Institute, and it says here, position in CIA-related organization. All right, there is a deep concerned effort with trying to Africanize Black people in America. All right, there is a concerned effort that runs as deep as the CIA that wants to make an African out of us. All right, let's walk. All right, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, ASCAC. All right, was also, Leonard Jeffries was also a part of. All right, so was John Henry Clark. We just broke him down. All right, Asa Hilliard and Jacob Carruthers, they were both Boule members. Dr. Ben, we just broke him down. And Malena Karenga. These are the people that Leonard Jeffries rode with. So not only was Leonard Jeffries funded by Rockefeller, not only did he study under someone affiliated with the CIA, he rode with John Henry Clark, who was funded by a small hat and was affiliated with the CIA. He rode with Asa Hilliard and Jacob Carruthers, who were Boule members. He rode with Dr. Ben, who was a phony. And he rode with Malena Karenga, who was an informant. Let's prove it. All right, a few weeks after the assassination of Martin Luther King, Mr. Karenga slipped into Sacramento for a private chat with Governor Reagan at the governor's request. The Black nationalists also met clandestinely with LA Police Chief Thomas Redden after King was killed. All right, Malena Karenga, all right, the founder of Kwanzaa, was an informant. And these are the people that Leonard Jeffries rode with. All right. Also, Leonard Jeffries became oral history director of the Carnegie-funded Kente Library for Black Genealogical Research, and he also consulted with Alex Haley's Roots, the book, and the 1977 television miniseries. So he was oral history director at the Carnegie-funded Kente Library, but Carnegie was responsible for the flooding of an all-black town. All right, Carnegie was responsible for the flooding of an all-black town. And it said he worked with Alex Haley on Roots. But Alex Haley was a plagiarist. All right, in 1977, accused of plagiarism in 2 separate lawsuits by Harold Corlander. Corlander claimed that Roots was copied from his fictional novel, The African, 1967. All right, he was sued and settled out of court for $650,000, the equivalent of $2.9 million in today's money. This is what Alex Haley was sued for. All right, Haley plagiarized a fictional novel. All right, Alex Haley plagiarized fictional novel, meaning it's a fictional book. All right, it's not real. All right, Roots was plagiarized from a fictional novel. That means that Roots is fake. All right, if Roots was plagiarized from a fictional novel, that means that Roots is fake. All right, and these are the kinds of people that Dr. Leonard Jeffries rode with. All right, let's walk. All right, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jesse Jackson. All right, he was born Jesse Lewis Burns, the son of Helen Burns. She never married his father, Noah Lewis Robinson. All right, Noah Lewis Robinson, his ancestry includes Cherokee and Irish. All right, so Jesse Jackson's father, it says his ancestry includes Cherokee and Irish. All right, Jesse Jackson's second great-grandpa, Jesse Christie, was Cherokee. All right, Jesse Jackson's second great-grandpa, Jesse Christie, was Cherokee. All right, here's his family tree. So like if it's hard to see, here's his father down here, Noah Lewis Robinson. His father, Reverend J.A. Robinson. Jackson Christie. And here's your Jesse Christie right here, born 1868. All right, here's his family tree. All right, again, here's his father, Noah Lewis Robinson. Grandfather, Reverend J.A. Robinson. It says Robinson is one of the 100 most common surnames in Ireland. So that Robinson comes from his paternal great-grandma. All right, his paternal great-grandma was Irish. That's where that Robinson name comes from. But his great-grandpa and his second great-grandpa, we're going to find out right here. All right, Jackson Christie, that's his great-grandpa. 1900 U.S. Federal Census, Jackson Christie. Home 1900 Cherokee Nation, Indian Territory. And his second great-grandpa, all right, born 1810. All right, Jesse Christie. All right, right here on, all right, the Gunny and Miller roll is perhaps the most important source for Cherokee genealogical research. All right, applications typically include Indian names, residences, dates, and place of birth, marriage status, and names of spouses. All right, Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage. All right, Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage. All right, his second great-grandpa was Cherokee. His great-grandpa is Cherokee. His great-grandpa married an Irish woman. All right. And that's where the name Robinson comes from. And his father's last name was Robinson. As we read earlier, it said he had a Cherokee and Irish ancestry, but that paternal line is Cherokee. So if Jesse Jackson, if his paternal lineage was Cherokee, why the push for African American? All right, that's a question for anybody watching. We just proved through his family tree that Jesse Jackson's paternal lineage is Cherokee. All right, his paternal second great-grandpa was Cherokee. His paternal great-grandpa was Cherokee. All right, married an Irish woman. That's where the Robinson name comes from. And Jesse Jackson's father's name was Noah Robinson. All right, if he has a Cherokee paternal lineage, why the push for African American? All right, if anybody in the chat can answer that question for me. If he has a Cherokee paternal lineage, why the push for African American? But let's walk. All right, a movement led by Reverend Jesse Jackson to blacks, African Americans, has met with both rousing approval and deep-seated skepticism in a debate that is coming to symbolize the role and history of blacks in this country. All right, he led a movement to call Black Americans African Americans. And again, we just proved that Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage. Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage, but some reason wants to push for African American. Let's walk. All right, Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson. We still ain't at that school yet. He's been talking about that school for what, about 10 years now? All right, this is what he thinks of black people. This was a quote from Umar Johnson. Trifling ass black people. This is what he thinks. This is what he thinks of black people. After 6 months, he only received $250,000 in donations. Apparently, that wasn't enough for Umar. All right, this is what Umar Johnson thinks of black people. But I think I know where some of that money went. Salakia, this is hard to read. But that $250,000, he said he's good enough. I think I know where some of that money went out. All right, Dr. Umar Johnson. All right, United States Court of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. August Archibald plaintiff versus Umar Johnson. Frederick Jalad and Shakim Harris defendants. It says Umar Johnson, born Jermaine Shoemake, the founder of the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. With respect to alleged criminal offenses related to illegal drugs, Umar Johnson is alleged to have a cocaine addiction. And this is right here on a court document. United States Court of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. August Archibald plaintiff, Umar Johnson defendant. All right, background information. With respect to alleged criminal offenses related to illegal drugs, Umar Johnson is alleged to have a cocaine addiction. Maybe that's where some of that money went. With respect to alleged criminal offenses related to trespassing, Umar Johnson routinely records himself conducting so-called school tours of abandoned buildings. Johnson rarely records himself with any real estate agents or brokers. Johnson rarely records how he gains access into these abandoned buildings. And we still don't have a school. $250,000 in donations in the first 6 months, and 10 years later, we still don't have a school. And according to this court document, Umar Johnson is alleged to have a cocaine addiction. Allegedly. Allegedly. But Let's find out who Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians really are. All right, forget all this Pan-Africanism, forget African American, anything Afrocentric. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So Ham became the progenitor of Africans, Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, but not the Negro. All right, here's another source, Choctaw Advocate newspaper, July 2nd. July 24th, 1902, Kansas City, Missouri. It says, disenfranchise the Negro and send him to Africa. Absurd and impossible. More than $1 billion worth of United States real estate, which he owns in his own name in the United States, is not easily to be taken from him. Besides, the Negro is not an African. All right, Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians, we are not Africans. We don't have any culture from Africa. We don't have any affiliation with Africa. All right, anybody that tries to bring up genetic testings, right, 23andMe, this is what it says here, is FDA halts 23andMe sales. Scientists caution personal genetic screenings are entertainment genetics. Consumers should approach personal genetic tests with healthy skepticism and sense of fun. All right, it's all fake. All right, these are for entertainment purposes. To find out you're 17% Nigerian and 13% Ghanaian. All right, all of this is entertainment genetics. Besides, prior to the 1960s, none of those African countries existed. None of those African countries existed. Our grandmas are older than all of those countries in West Africa. All right, our grandmas are older than all of those countries in West Africa. And 23andMe is being sued. All right, class action suit that said genetic testing company failed to notify customers whose personal information was compiled into lists that was sold on the dark web. So not only is 23andMe for entertainment purposes only, it's also being sued. But this is really what all of this is about. All right, this whole African identity, all right, this is what it's all about. All right, the big push to turn the Lord's chosen people into an African, this is really what it's all about. All right, it's nothing but scientific racism and the belief that white people are the most advanced people on the planet. See, they don't mind us calling ourselves the original man. I know that's a big thing in Pan-Africanism. Oh, I'm the original man. All right. They don't mind it. Matter of fact, they want us to call ourselves the original man. Because if we're the original man, that means that we're lower on their evolutionary scale. All right. If we're the original man, that means that we're closer to a chimpanzee. All right. If we're the original man, that means that we're closer to a chimpanzee. All right. This is what this whole African identity is meant to do. All right. This is why this whole African identity, African studies, Africana studies, Pan-Africanism, that's why it was all funded by white money. It was all funded by white money because it's a scientific way of calling us a monkey. All right. It's a scientific way of calling us a monkey. Right, here's your evolutionary chart. All right, here's a quote from Charles Darwin. It says, at some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace throughout the world the savage races. All right, the civilized races, all right, according to Darwin, was the white man. And the savage races, meaning your blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. All right, the ones that are closer to chimpanzees. All right, this is what this whole African identity was meant to bring. All right, this is what this whole African identity was meant to do. It's a scientific way of making a monkey out of us. But let's see what the Bible says. Let's see what the Bible says. All right, the book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 17. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. All right, there's a difference between the Lord's chosen people. There's a difference between Africans and blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. All right, blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians, we are the same race of people, the Lord's chosen people, and there's a difference between us and Africans. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to Galatians 4 and 26. Last scripture, Galatians 4 and 26. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. All right, Jerusalem is the motherland. Jerusalem is the mother of us all, not Africa. All right, Africa is not the motherland. All right, Africa is the mother of flies. All right, Jerusalem is the mother of all. Jerusalem is our motherland. All right, the land of blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. But before we end the class, all right, it is that time of year again. All right, we're coming up on the Lord's 56th annual Passover, hosted by Commanding General Yohana and the ISUPK, and we're going to be getting it on in the ATL. All right, it's 47 days until the Lord's Passover, 47 days until the 56th annual Passover. All right, pay your Passover fee, $200 per adult in your itinerary. All right, Wednesday, April 9th is the Lamb Slaughter and Round Table of Truth, hosted by Captain of 13,000, Mawquad. All right, Thursday, April 10th, the Kids Party and Scripture Breakdown with 12th Shir General Muhammad. Friday, April 11th, Hebrew Academy graduation. Lord be with the brothers in Hebrew Academy and the All Black Party. All right, with that All Black Party, we're going to have China Monet and Pastor Troy. And Saturday, April 12th, is the Lord's Passover, the 56th annual Lord's Passover. This is the only Passover that the Lord accepts. And Sunday the 13th, Feast of Unleavened Bread. Again, 47 days into the Lord's Passover. Pay your Passover fee, $200 per adult. With that, we'll go ahead and end the class. All right, shalom. Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatham. Yahweh Shemalatham B'Shem Yahweh Shai. With that, class dismissed.
Hey, I don't give a fuck what them bitches say. I'm a one nigga till they put me in break. I don't give a fuck about what them niggas gotta say. I'm a one West nigga till they put me in the grave. I don't care about what they say. Hey. Fuck with my Akima, fuck with my sisters, then I got a problem, I'm never gonna miss you. I got 100 hanging out the AR, I got a 50 hanging out the pistol. He say it's corner, I'm just being realistic. I be on them corner posted with the realest. If it's a Sabbath, then we going fishing. I'm reeling them in, that's a God-given mission. I'm really on 10, but I'm stamped in the pistol. I get the order, be glad at this mission. Hebrew Academy graduate, nigga. Training, go through the baddest conditions. I don't fuck with none but the baddest of bitches. She righteous, submissive, she glad to be with me. Had that thing Putin like Batman, nigga. She know I'm a prophet, she glad to be listening. I ain't having that shit till I go make some business from scratch. She bitchin' a different breed of black men. We don't do the back bend. I remember back when I was really trapping, trying to get the racks in, selling dope to black men. But now I'm trying to make it straight. Like, don't forget about my face. We standing up straight, can't fold us. Too heavy, the world won't hold us. Go get you some rank, I told you. Line up in these ranks, we soldier. You can take them to the bank, we focus. How many times must we remind you? One body, one way, some break off and never take off as a flex. When the law with your anal up next, it's just us, nigga, that's that on that. All that weak shit, that ain't no threat. Say you won't beat, bitch, with that ain't no sweat. We with all that. The Lord called a nigga out the world, I responded and called back. Oh Lord, and everything that they stole from us, fuck that shit, we want all that. Them niggas snitching and they act like bitches. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They killing women and they fuck with sisters. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They telling lies, switching up the doctrine. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They ain't gon' ride until they die, so that's why we unaffiliated with them. Come on the command and general, your honor, we unaffiliated with them. Like they tongue and they say they keep that shit 100, we unaffiliated with them. They telling lies, switching up the doctrine. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They ain't gon' ride until they die, so that's why we unaffiliated with them. That's why we unaffiliated with them. I cannot fuck around with fake niggas. We taking ground when we in your city. You better have the women, have the liquor. Keep that bitch on me, please don't but the system. Don't be a fool and be another victim. Say you a goon, you just another Christian. How you my brother, you ain't in here with me. We in the gutter, deep down in the trenches. We with them niggas locked up in the prison. Fucking Hispanic, Native American, Indian. We ain't just talking shit, but we living in it. We be everywhere, you can't miss it. And we be fresh as hell, take a picture. And we special now with the scriptures. Play, we gon' scratch them, yeah, we some killers. These niggas tripping, they mind blown. Swear business, forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't get it pause when niggas say that they be looking for niggas to slide on. The slide that I know about is when I assemble the Glock with the slide on. Real, I get the order, you know that it's slaughter. See me and my niggas gon' die. The bigger the better for kingdom of heaven. You niggas get wet up by me cause I'm fed up. I rep UPK. My niggas won't let up. Got choppers, got 9s, AKs, Berettas. You say you don't like me, you say you won't fight with what me and my nigga like, bitch, or whatever. You say you don't like me, you say you won't fight with what me and my nigga like. My nigga like them niggas snitching and they act like bitches. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They killing women and they fuck with sisters. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They telling lies, switching up the doctrine. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They ain't gon' ride until they die, so that's why we unaffiliated with them. Come on the command and general, your honor, we unaffiliated with them. Like they tongue and they say they keep that shit 100, we unaffiliated with them. They telling lies, switching up the doctrine. That's why we unaffiliated with them. They ain't gon' ride until they die, so that's why we unaffiliated with them. Yeah. See, they always ask us like, why y'all fuck with such and such? Why y'all won't come together with such and such? I be like, we unaffiliated with them. You understand me? Like, niggas be out here on some weirdo shit. And to be honest, that's why we unaffiliated with them. Hey, that's why we unaffiliated with them.